How's it going? So I'm going to explain the align content property of the flex wrap container. So right now we have, this is our flex container, which is the black box, right? And we have 4 items. So far, we can control where they sit. Let me just move this out of the way. So this container is 1 box. Oh, I just realized that it's much easier to actually do it. Look, if you have flex wrap, there is also invisible container that is holding this flex container. So this red div is the flex wrap, and then this black div is the flex item. So you see, right now it's set, so this black one is set to stretch. Why is it set to stretch? Because it's the default value. So if we change this to start, you see this so this now flex wrap is now like this, you see? So there, like this black box is deceptive basically in here. Because realistically in flex wrap, now we're talking about specifically flex wrap, this container is no longer stretched, so you are just sitting in here, you see. Realistically, this should go up like this, and this should, yeah, we should technically do this. Oops. It's like super confusing. Basically, you have to, at this stage, you have to ignore the black box. Because without align content, so now we're setting align content, we're gonna remove it. What you're going to see is, so this is the flex wrap container, and it's stretched by default. So this, you can think of it as an container that holds your flex container, which is very confusing, but it is what it is, right? And then you can control it. Right now it's stretched. So that's why you can move the items. You can move them to end, you can move them to center. Let's move it to center. You see, you can move it to start, which is, let's move it to end. Now, if you set align content, so if we set this red box container to align start, it will start to look like this. Obviously to the height of the items. And then there is nowhere to move them anymore. So that's why align items stops working. Oh my God. So you see, we're gonna move it to, I'm gonna save this now. And you see they just move in because they have nowhere to move, because this is no longer stretched. Again, ideally, I was expecting that the flex container is actually going to move in here as well, but it doesn't happen because it's a flex wrap. Basically, you can think about flex wrap as a invisible div that is wrapping up your items. And the way we can demonstrate that is going to be even more confusing, but okay. Look, if we have flex wrap, let's just do standard setup, right? When we move like this, you see we now have 2 containers. So we have the flex wrap like this, and then we have 2 containers. Blue is the containers. You see they're like this. So now we can move the inside of these containers, because they're stretched, we can move the items by using align items. So let's say we want to move it to center. All of them are going to move to center. This one is going to go to here. This one's going to go to here. So you are controlling what's inside of this blue box by using align items. So let's set it to end. They're going to jump to here. This one's going to jump to here. You see? Like this. We set to center. It's going to go move to center. Whoops. Yeah. Now, why does it work? Again, because these blue containers, which are inside the flex wrap, I can call them like cells, rows, divs, whatever you think about them, right? They are set to stretch. But if we use align property, which is align content, and put it to start, there is nowhere to stretch them. So the align item property will stop working. So you see, we're going to put this to start, and then boom, they're going to jump to here. We're going to now, why does that happen? Because the blue boxes, think of the blue boxes. Whoops. So again, we had our container, which was big, right? But now the blue boxes, because they're now set to start, they now became like this. So now it's like impossible to control, and obviously our red container became whoops, it became like this. So basically, probably the easiest way to think about it is when you're working with flex wrap, draw out the invisible containers, and then you'll be able to understand them. Because this black border here is very deceptive, and it belongs to the flex container, not to the flex wrap container. So just mental model would be like this. When you're working with flex wrap, create a invisible flex wrapper, which is a container, which is the red box. And then inside of this red box, when you start moving items in it by default. So again, look, we're working with flex wrap, right? We create our invisible flex wrap container like this. Whoopsie. I'm just getting used to drawing tool. Okay. Like this. Then the container shrinks, because right now we have only one cell inside. So the cell, to control the cell or div, whatever you want to call this black box, you can use align item property to control what's inside of it. To control how it behaves inside of the red box, you use align content property. Okay, so again, look, you see, now you have only one. Now you're going to have two of them. So now, because mental model broken down, we have to draw it. So the best way to draw it is just to take a marker and be okay. So now there is two of them in here. They look like this. It's the same ding dong, only now there is two of them. And now we can say, okay, I want them to move to the top. What should I use? I should use align items to move to the top. So we do align items, start. Now they're going to move up. Okay. We want to the end. We type end. Boom, they go to the end. Now, I want to remove the gap like this, and I just want them to be together, basically. So what do? We need to shrink the blue boxes, because right now they are stretched by default. So in order to shrink them, we need to use align content property and we set it to start or end. If we set it to end, I think they're gonna move to here. Yeah, you see now they're here. So now those two boxes, they became, well, I'm not gonna use red. So red is the flex wrapper. So now flex wrapper is like this. And now we need the blue boxes. And the blue boxes are now, because they're no longer stretched, they're only filling in the content. At this stage, align items property is no longer going to be effective. Why that's the case? Because there is nowhere to shift the items inside of the blue boxes. And that's why it becomes useless. Okay, that's it. Take care. Bye-bye.